Hi, friends. I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is for capable leaders who carry a lot at work, at home, and for everyone else. And somewhere along the way, the weight starts to feel heavier than it should. I'm Roseanne Callens, a success coach and creator of Operation U. Today's conversation is especially important for business owners and founders who look composed on the outside, but behind the scenes, they feel the constant pressure of decision after decision. Revenue's coming in, the business is functioning, but cash flow feels harder to predict. Important decisions get delayed or, even worse, guessed at, and growth introduces risk instead of that stability. I'm joined here by strategic business advisor Allen Archuleta Jr., creator of the Chaos to Control
All
framework.
right.
Allen works with revenue producing owners who know their business is working, but they're not convinced that it's built to hold up under pressure. So let's dive in. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Allen.
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you for having me today. It's always a great opportunity to be a part of different podcasts and programs and also help support you and all the things that you are constantly doing. So thank you for that. A little bit about me. Been a entrepreneur, business owner, whatever title you want to give it, for over 15 years at this point. So, a lot of what I've developed and talked about, I've experienced myself, but a lot of the framework that we've built today wasn't really based on theory, is actually based on, a lot of different business owners that I've worked with bringing me problems, right? So typically there's like a single problem that they come to me with. And then, once I start digging in a little bit, I figure out, well, there's a lot more to your problems than just this government letter or whatever issue they're dealing with. So I decided to kind of put that first foot forward and, build some frameworks around helping business owners that are just struggling mentally with overload, not sure if their business is structured and functioning the right way and if they're really prepared for growth.
Yeah, we all need help. As a business owner myself, we can always be doing something smarter. So I love that I have the pulse right here with you. So on your website, Alan, you talk about how businesses are technically working, revenue's coming in, but the structure hasn't caught up. So if someone's listening here and they're a business owner, right, or an entrepreneur, what are the early signs that a business has outgrown the operating foundation that it was built on?
Yeah, this is always tough, right? Because the signs are usually quiet. And what I mean by that is just like looking at a business from the outside in, everything looks great, right? They have revenue, they're doing, it seems like things are going well, but behind the scenes, there's probably added stress and chaos to the owner, right? A lot of this comes with decision fatigue and their brain never stopped working. I remember, when I fell in these areas and even being an empath and taking all my clients' problems, I find myself waking up at 2 a.m. with all these things going through my head. So that's really where we start seeing business owners start realizing, is this how it's always supposed to be? Right. So that's the early signs for business owners, right? A lot of us hear the term grinding. So they think working hard, I'm putting in the hours and I'm killing it. But the reality is all they're doing is putting out fires, working on busy work, and they don't really have a structure or infrastructure in place, rather, to take their business to the next level.
And I love how you say that you stay up thinking about your clients because you're so humble, but Alan is a fixer. Okay. And so his mind is always thinking about how you could do something smarter and faster. I'll even say cleaner, right?
Yeah.
So you're a fixer, Alan. I have a follow-up question. In your experience with clients, right? What's the founder feeling like at that time when they're like, "Oh my gosh, my business has outgrown and I don't know what to do." What does it feel like for them, like, when you see clients come to you?
I think it's a lot of different emotions. And I think emotion is the key word, right? They're getting decision fatigued. Like we already talked about, the mental load is kind of unbearable. And at this point, they're really functioning in their business in a reactive manner. Things are coming at them at sometimes a rapid pace, and they're just constantly making decisions based on no structure, no guardrails or anything like that. And emotionally, they're just drained, right? So they're just going to work, working hard, but at the end of the day, they're potentially going home feeling like something's wrong, something's off, and feel like they're kind of on a treadmill running in the skis. So, an analogy I like to use really quick, my wife came up with, it's about getting in a car and crashing into a brick wall. And instead of getting into the car again and driving around the wall, you just make a U-turn and you go right back around and keep hitting the wall over and over and over. So a big emphasis on my chaos to control framework is around being able to figure a way to strap a rocket to the car so you can blow through that wall and have the confidence in the infrastructure and all the protections and guardrails in place to help make sound decisions through growth within your business.
I really like that we're starting off with the emotions and feelings because for everyone listening, having a business, it's your baby and you think about it, you love it, you care for it. Any business you go into, the person that started that whole thing up, they're real people with real feelings and real fears. And so I love that you brought that up. Let's talk about reactive versus controlled. You make a clear distinction about that. And it made me even think about my business. You say reactive businesses don't feel broken, they feel busy and exposed.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference between a reactive and controlled business from your expertise?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've talked about a lot of the different examples of a reactive business. So it's taking things as they come rather than building and being prepared. Teams spend hours putting together strategy and all these different things. And then it becomes this big old document that gets thrown aside and they still every day react as things come down the pipe. So that creates issues with seeing revenue growing, but cash is shrinking and is not as high and not understanding why, making decisions on growth, and it's actually putting more strain on your business rather than adding more, I guess, being cheerful and happy about you're growing your business and it feels more chaotic and strained. I think there's a million ways that we can talk about a reactive business, but when you look at a controlled business, really the big thing to me is confidence and decision making, understanding risks, and feeling calm. As calm as you can be. There's no real true calmness, in my opinion. Yeah, kind of like that whole analogy with buying a boat. The greatest day is when you buy the boat, and the next best day is when you sell it. So you invest your life into building a business, growing it. You make so many different impacts through your team and people's lives, give them opportunities that may not exist. And then at the end of the day, you think also in selling your business, your life's going to be calmer, but the true entrepreneurs, they can't sit still. So it actually creates a whole new level of anxiety and things that they deal with even post business sales. So part of what we do too is talk about the exit strategy. I went through a credentialing program as a certified exit planner, and one of the big emphases that they make is not only focusing on getting to the exit and building your business for the exit you want, but also looking at your personal financial life, because you got to make sure, most of the net worths for all business owners are built within their business. And then the most important part to me is personally preparing. So what are you going to do? Are you going to start taking woodshop classes? Are you going to buy a sailboat and sail the world? Most owners don't prepare for that. So I know I went on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think it's good things to talk about when looking at the calmness during and after.
Absolutely. We have to think about just like what you said, staying busy and constantly thinking about a business. And when you exit, having that exit plan, having a coach to help you through that, that's imperative. I love that, Alan, because I wanted to ask you why so many capable founders make they mistake busyness for stability. Because I feel that as a business owner, you always feel like you should be busy, 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 doing, 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 and you definitely your mind is on. But what's the difference between that and stability?
Yeah, we talked about the whole grinding terminology. So a lot of that is people, if they think they're busy, their calendar is full, revenues are coming in, clients are buying, that things are stable. But again, that might not be the case how your business is structured. A lot of where stability comes is putting guardrails into effect. And what I mean by that is having plans and decision frameworks. If you're in the business world and looking at a lot of things like this, we hear a lot about workflows. And what that is it's a decision process. When this happens, we use the if then framework. If this happens, then do this. So you can build those same type of frameworks, not necessarily as like a tech workflow, but like a structured workflow. So not only you take the decisions all off of you as the owner, and empower your team or others to make decisions. You hire these people because they're capable. And as the old saying goes, you should be hiring people that are smarter than you. So you hire them for a reason. You want to give them the ability to do their job, do it effectively, and give them some autonomy. It gives them powers and it helps them get a sense of ownership. The example were Ritz Carlton. They used to, and they probably still do it, they would give every employee up to $2,000 to ensure that every client or guest rather has a great experience. And if they need to do something, they have a budget up to $2,000 to make it right. So I think that's pretty powerful when you think about implementing your team and other things to create stability within your business.
I love that, finding the right people for to make your business scale and grow even more. I love that.
Yeah.
So, you call your approach the chaos to control framework.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
So, for someone hearing that for the first time, what is it actually? Like, give me the
Yeah.
chaos to control for dummies.
When somebody hears that, I think a lot of times the first thought is, well, my business isn't chaotic. We seem like everything is working perfectly. So it's part of a learning process, right? The reality is a lot of we started a business from scratch. We're a lot of times figuring it out as we go, and we're shooting by the hip, and things work. But it gets to a certain point where that framework no longer works. So, and that's where the chaos starts coming in. Your business becomes more reactive and constantly putting out fires. Your mind is weighted down with all the decisions. Everything relies on you as the owner. So just because you want to be involved in your business doesn't mean everything has to rely on you. With the framework, a lot of clients come to us with a siloed problem. Right? I have this issue, or I got this notice from the government, or whatever, and they come to us to help them fix that. We start with this business assessment to look into that issue, but also talk to the owners, talk to the team, find out what things are working well, what aren't working well, so we can really get a true picture of the structure of their business and where there might be some risks. And then from there, we provide our findings, and if it's a siloed thing, great, we'll help them fix it. If it's we've helped them kind of identify they might have a structure problem that we can implement, and that's when we roll them into this chaos to control frameworks. The chaos is the everyday chaos of running a business, and taking that into a more of a controlled structure and calmer framework that things work. So like when you're looking at growth, it's stress tested. Your cash and your pay as an owner is tested and ensured that you're paying yourself enough, right? Based on what
Mhm.
you get, and that you're not overpaying yourself. What I see a lot, right? And cash is strained and other things. Understanding how finance impacts your business. This is one area that a lot of business owners unfortunately don't understand, right? They might have an accountant or a bookkeeper, CPA, and they produce these reports and other things. A lot of times they just give you a report and you don't really understand what that data means, right? And this data is imperative to make decisions. So helping you understand that framework, and then going back to those if then scenarios with if this is happening, then we need to do this. And those are just a couple examples of how we're taking the chaos to control.
You said it doesn't have to feel chaotic on the outside. When we are out of balance as business owners or, as humans, we're holding our breath. We're not breathing. We're going from one thing to the next. We're not able to communicate effectively. So, having someone, especially as a business owner, having someone help put you on pause and to give you the reflections, that's extremely powerful. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to talk about Alan talks about risk and reality assessment, cash flow visibility, pricing and revenue logic, operational alignment, and growth and decision guardrails, which you brought up, Alan. What part surprises founders the most when you work with them?
Uh, I think there's a couple key areas. I mean, of course, we've already talked about some, the guardrails and things like
Mhm.
that. One that pops up is around growth and pricing. They might get on a big new client. They might be growing, implemented this new marketing strategy, and they're seeing it doesn't even have to be explosive growth, just consistent growth within their numbers and their sales. But the thing that they don't do at that time is really look at how that's going to change their business operationally and adjust their pricing to ensure that their profit margins or their other fixed expenses are going to continue to be able to hold up, and it's not going to create more pressure on the business and you as the owner. So I think that's
Yeah.
one area that a lot of people kind of overlook. We're all growth focused. We want to grow, Sometimes everybody has a different reason why they go into business. I help veterans a lot with starting businesses. And one of the things we talk about is what is your why, right? There was a saying by Guy Kawasaki that always stuck with me talking about, for people that focus on making money, they usually don't make money. And they don't really make meaning in what they do. So if you focus on making meaning, you'll make an impact in your business, industry, whatever you do. And usually you'll make money along the way. And then the other thing that I think a lot of people don't take into account is risk. We hear risk. So when I say risk, what does that mean to you?
Think about it when we talk about business owners putting their dreams on the line. So, risk is you might be taking out a huge loan for your business, or you might be risking not even showing up for your kids' games because you're, as you say, grinding, working really hard. So, that to me is risk. There's a lot of personal and professional risk.
A couple things you talked about. There's financial risk, that's the monetarial risk, and then also opportunity risk. Taking time away from your family is a huge risk that, especially early on. And as your business grows, I can't tell you how many business owners I know work 7 days a week. I mean, I know one that does it, he's in his 80s and still works 6 to 7 days a week. That's because he loves it, not because he has to, but that's a whole different conversation. So, here's a couple scenarios where risk played in that we weren't prepared for. 2008 financial crisis. The COVID was a huge one because that wasn't necessarily a risk around finance. It was a risk around vendors. It was a risk around other areas of supply chain, and think about that. And most recently, we can talk about a political environment, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, through tariffs and other things that impacts your business depending on the type of business that you're in. If it's people being scared to spend money, if you're in a marketing or a promotional business, people aren't buying because they don't know what's going to happen with the government shutdowns and all these things. How does that impact your business? And are you adjusting your prices? So I think there's so much more to risk that I don't think people really understand. Not that they don't pay attention to it. I don't think that they understand it as true risk and how it impacts their business.
Wow, Alan, I feel like we need to do a whole podcast episode on just risk. I just want to bring up again, even just business owners, like you said, who are in the middle of it, they're successful, they've been growing, but working with someone like you just gives them a time out to say, am I doing what's the smartest? Am I doing things for me? Like you said, the 80-year-old who's still working. I mean, that's amazing to find value in that and to know you love what you do that much, right? Maybe his dream is he does want to be on a pontoon boat. And maybe that's the dream. So, you helping someone realize that dream is amazing. Actually, I want to talk about this. You offer the Archuleta guarantee, which is focused on operational understanding, rather than revenue promises.
Yeah.
So, why is that important to you? I want to hear from your heart because I think that's really cool that you do this.
My philosophy is I think everybody should stand behind what they do. I choose not to tie any guarantees to revenue because one, I can't control the market. I can't control your clients. What I can control is making sure that things are implemented the way that they need to be, that you're getting clarity of understanding where your business came from, where it's at now, and where you're going. Understanding how guardrails work, understanding how to think of things when and things go beyond. Our goal is that we want to stay with you beyond the 60 or 90 days. We really like to look at the framework as a 12-month theory, but I just want you to be happy. You're making an investment in myself and in your business. And I want to make sure that you're walking away feeling like that investment was sound and that I did, everything that I was supposed to be doing for you. That advisory model, we make tweaks, we change things because we got to see as things evolve, you grow, markets change. We want to make sure that, we're controlling the dials and making sure we're in focus as much as we can be. So I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I just want to stand behind what I do as well.
Well, I've known you for many years, and for those of you listening or watching, Alan and I met when I was working with the Department of Defense at Travis Air Force Base, and Alan was one of our most highly requested instructors for the Boots to Business Entrepreneurship Program. And one special thing I'll say about this that ties directly into his business right now and his Archuleta guarantee is that we would still have service members that would reach out to Alan well past the class date, and Alan would always respond and give them tips. And I know how much you care about helping people succeed. So Speaking of that, I always love to, end our time together with my guests giving like, one actionable tip, at least for right now. So, Alan, for the founder listening right now who feels like their business is functioning, but a little harder to control than it probably should be,
Yeah.
what's the first shift or a tip that you would encourage them to make right here, live?
Yeah. Well, it's not a magic pill, right? The biggest thing would to be, take some time to slow down and really look at what's happening because until you truly understand where these problems are coming from, is this, I need to grow my team. I got too much taking on. Just, take the time to slow down, give yourself some grace. You've done a lot. You're working hard. You're building something amazing. And then lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. If it's not us, great. That's okay. Go to somebody. I know that a lot of owners kind of feel alone in dealing with all this stuff. And because of this, I actually built a different, service offering, essentially just calling it the strategic partner program, right? To be that kind of partner in your journey. So you have somebody in your corner always to use in whatever way you need. I can be your business therapist. I can help you with decision making. I could, whatever you need, but just having somebody in your corner is something that's really empowering as a business owner. The biggest thing I just want to say is give yourself some grace. You're working hard, you're sacrificing a lot, and take that as a win. Oh,
That's beautiful, Alan, and just taking that one step, and I heard you say again and again during our episode, is being vulnerable enough as a business owner, and even anytime you're vulnerable enough to share with someone, "Hey, I think I could be doing this better," or, "Can you just listen to me?" That's vulnerable for people, and to have someone listen to you and really take that in and not shame you or judge you or say, "How dare you make all those mistakes?" I know you would never do that, Alan. I can personally guarantee for everyone listening that Alan is not like that at all. And I'm so excited. I'm really just honored that you're here with me, Alan. So thank you for such an honest and grounding conversation today.
yeah.
I
Well,
just want
thank
to
you for
say,
having me.
well, you're welcome. For anyone listening, I just want everyone, as Alan said, to pause for a moment. Just pause. Overwhelm doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means you're carrying too much alone. And chaos doesn't resolve by pushing harder. And sometimes you need coaches along the way. If your business is working but feels harder than it should, why not explore Alan's Chaos to Control framework at allenarchuleta.com and connect with him on LinkedIn? We are real people, everyone, and we will respond, right, Alan?
Yeah.
We are. We would love to hear from you. If this conversation supported you, please follow this podcast, subscribe, like, leave a review. We all need our success team. So, friends, thank you for being here. And once again, for taking time for yourself. Taking the time to take care of you is not selfish, it's imperative. And I'll see you next time. And thank you, Alan. Goodbye.
Thank you. See you later.